We're back. I've said that like 4 times now. This is Hydro & Co. We're back. Season 4, iteration number 4, but it's still the same 3 OGs. Welcome back, Kendall, Chase.
Glad to be back, boys.
Glad to be back.
Hell yeah. So we got a jam-packed show today. All things NFL Week 1. Going to give our predictions. This will be a great episode to look back on in about 6 months. And we're either going to be really right or really fucking wrong.
I would say like 4 or 5. 6 months is like,
well,
I'd say, actually,
like December, January, 5 months.
I'd say in like 2 months, you may have a pretty solid idea.
Yeah, some of these things will be very apparent 2 months from now. But we're going to be predicting just about everything. But we're first going to start with some teams that are going to shock us here and some teams that are going to disappoint us. So, Kendall, let's start with you. What is a team going into this year? Maybe they're a little underrated. Maybe they're flying under the radar a little bit. Or maybe they were just flat out terrible last year that's going to come back around and shock the world this season.
All right, I'm going to start with my NFC. I got one for each. So this is more of along the lines of I think they could surprise some people and be kind of like dark horse Super Bowl contenders here on this one. And I got the Los Angeles Rams. I think heading into last year, if y'all remember, they were not expected to be anything. Like a lot of people had them winning like 3-4 games. And whenever we briefly did the podcast, I did say I thought the Rams were going to be sleepers last year to make the playoffs, and they did because Sean McVay and a healthy Matthew Stafford is a great combination. I love Matthew Stafford. One of the most underrated quarterbacks ever. They got a really talented, explosive offense. Cooper Kupp and Puka is nasty. And then Tutu Atwell, is he still there? Yes. I think so. Yeah, he's not the greatest, but he's a deep threat to kind of give Cooper Kupp and Puka that freedom underneath and intermediate routes to have the freedom to get open.
Look out for Jordan Whittington. He's going to be a stud.
My AFC should come by no surprise. This one's more of sleepers that are flying way under the radar to possibly be a wild card team. That's the Las Vegas Raiders. I see a lot of people not giving us any credit. We're going to win 3 or 4 games, get a top 5 pick. I just don't see that happening. And it has nothing to do with quarterback situation. You say whatever you want. It is a hole. But the rest of the roster around him, especially on that defense, is there. And if the defense can play to its potential, we could have a top 5 defense. And I don't think that's crazy to say because we were the number 1 defense last year after AP took over. So I think we could possibly make some noise and sneak into a wild card spot.
All right, Chase, who do you have shocking the world going into 2024?
Well, I will say this. The Raiders I think their win total is like set at 5.5 wins. So, hey,
yeah,
hammer the over there, pal.
I'm hammering the over.
I just have an NFC because I can't think of an AFC because honestly, I hate the AFC. I mean, I don't care about it really until the Super Bowl time. So,
yeah,
I do have an NFC team, and this is a team that didn't make the playoffs last year, but I think they might make it this year. If you have been with us since the beginning of time, we have shit on this team multiple times, and it's the Bears. Reason being, they have an exciting quarterback who I will say is flawed. He doesn't complete at a high percentage, but he has weapons. He has Gunnar Swift. He has Keenan Allen. He has DJ Moore. He has Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet on offense. Defense, they're still solid, but I think that this team's going to be exciting to watch. I think that if you are a Bears fan, you are super pumped about this year. The one downside is they do play in a division with the Packers and the Lions, who I think will both make the playoffs, but I think that division could see 3 teams in the playoffs, and I think the Bears will be one of them.
All right, that leaves me. Both of my teams are AFC teams. I'll start with one that's already been said, the Raiders. I had the Raiders as well. Little spoiler alert, I have the Raiders winning double-digit games this year. So definitely hammer.
I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I really do think that Gardner Minshew just needs to be able to manage the game, and they'll be okay. I think the offense itself is cohesive enough to kind of put Gardner in a good position. I mean, he did almost win a playoff game or almost make the playoffs with the Colts, a team that was, not great. But the second team that I have is a team that directly links to the Raiders, a team that almost did make the playoffs last year, but there is a lot of uncertainty going into the season, and that's the Colts. There's a lot of hype around them, but there is also a lot of question marks when it comes to Anthony Richardson and figuring out, will he play, all 17 games this year? Will he miss multiple weeks? I think they're going to be really good. I think AR5 is one of those players that is going to transform the Indianapolis Colts and take them to the next level. Michael Pittman is still a really solid receiver. I think Anthony Richardson with his legs is going to be able to open up a lot. Jonathan Taylor, of course, is there. And their defense isn't, they're not scrubs either. So I think that team, a lot of people in that division are immediately talking about the Texans. And a lot of people are talking about the Jags and seeing if Trevor Lawrence is going to take that next step. But I actually think Anthony Richardson and the Colts will take that next step before T-Law and the Jags will. So that is my two teams that will shock. Now let's get a little negative. What we love to do on this show is shit on other people's teams and talk about teams that will disappoint. Chase, let's start with you. Do you have any teams in particular that you think are just going to absolutely choke it this year and just not be very good?
Cowboys, they're dog shit.
That's fair.
Fair enough, baby.
Dak has only CD to throw to, and I guess Jake Ferguson. They have a running back who is a shell of his former self, and Zeke. And their offense is going to struggle to produce like they did last year, or they're not going to match what they did last year, basically. But I hate them. So that's a team that I think is going to stink. I wouldn't be surprised if they finish third in the division. I'm not going to put them last. I'm going to save that sweet spot for the Giants, who just own that last place spot in the East for a while. But I think it's going to be the Cowboys this year. No reason other than I just hate them.
Who is their wide receiver too this year? Brandon Cooks?
Yeah, Brandon Cooks, and they have Tolbert.
I was about to say Michael Gallup's gone, so yeah, definitely not a lot of not many weapons to play around with. Maybe Rico Dow will become a
and I think that like teams are going to stop the whole CD, or they're going to get smarter with the whole like CD taking advantage of the slot corner guy, because some teams just don't value a starting slot corner guy. So I think they're going to figure it out and they're going to adjust.
All right, Kendall, who do you got?
I got this one may be a little bit of a shock, but NFC, I have the Falcons. And yes, before anybody says anything, they were average last year. I get it. But their expectations with Kirk and firing Arthur Smith have gotten higher. A lot of people are all over him. And anybody who knows me, I'm not a believer in Drake London or Kyle Pitts. I think they haven't shown anything. So I don't think yet, and we could come back to this and I could be completely wrong, but I don't think by adding Kirk Cousins, I think a lot of people, Drake London especially, I think they're expecting him to step into that Justin Jefferson role, and he's just not Justin Jefferson. Like, yeah, his numbers will probably get a little better, but I don't view him as some elite kind of potential kind of wide receiver. I think he can be a good wide receiver, but not like that upper threshold. Yet. AFC, I have the Bills for obvious reasons. They lost Stephon Diggs, lost a couple pieces on defense, lost Gabe Davis, but take it a step further, and we'll get to that in our division prediction here in a second, but I don't have the Bills making the playoffs, so that's why I have them in disappointments.
The Bills would have been my disappointment for the AFC, by the way. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, just to quickly gloss through, I have 4. 2 of them are the Falcons and the Bills. The Bills for the exact same reason that Kendall said. The Falcons, I do agree. I have them finishing middle of the pack, like not a bad team, but like Kendall said, I think they're like looked at as this NFC dark horse that I just don't think they are. I think as the season goes along, you're going to see them struggle to win games in the NFC South and start to wonder what the fuck and really get an idea of who they are. On top of that, I have the Texans as a disappointment because I feel like they're at like an all-time high expectation. And spoiler alert, I don't have them making the playoffs. And I'll get more into that when we talk about our predictions, but it's not that I have the Texans winning 6 games or anything. I think the Texans have this, they're going to make the AFC Championship, level of expectation. And I don't think they're going to hit that. Not saying they're bad. I think they're a great team. I love CJ Stroud, but I just think they're kind of similar to the Falcons. Their expectations are a little too high. And then finally, I have the Steelers. Now, that's always a risky one to pick because when it seems like their teams are absolutely terrible, they still find a way to go above 500. I think this is going to be the year where they struggle to do that. I am a firm believer that if you have a quarterback carousel, that your team is destined to not be very good. When you have quarterbacks sitting there looking over their shoulders every week, wondering if they're going to get benched, it's destined to be a disaster situation. And I think Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are going to play, swip swap all year long. And being a quarterback in that situation isn't going to be productive. And I think that's going to very much make them a team that is not only below 500, but quite a bit below 500. And so, yeah, that's who I have as my disappointments.
I want to add one thing I forgot on the Falcons. I could see them obviously winning that division because that division is dog shit. But if you win that division and then they're going to be the worst division winner, so they're going to play the best wild card. And so that'd be like Packers, Lions, whoever doesn't win that kind of range, Cowboys or Eagles. Like they'd play one of them teams, and I think they'll just get shit on first round.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So speaking about what teams are going to make the playoffs, we can go ahead and start with our division predictions. I think the best way to go about this is we'll go division by division, starting in the AFC North and work our way around. We can kind of quickly say who we think is going to, the order in which we think it's going to play out, and then kind of discuss our reasoning why after that. So if everyone wants to give it a jump start, go ahead and start with your AFC North predictions.
I'll start. All right. I got the Ravens winning the division again. I think Derrick Henry addition is going to, even at his age, is going to open up so much for that offense, so much for Lamar, so much for Andrews in the passing game, Zay Flowers, etc. I have the Bengals at 2. I thought about having them as like a surprise because I think they're getting slept on a little bit. Like I think people have forgotten maybe how good they can be, but the whole Jamar Chase thing kind of got a cloud over them right now. So that's why I hesitated in doing that. And then I got the Browns 3 and the Steelers 4. I kind of agree with you, Wyatt. I think this is the year that the Steelers are probably going to take that step back and not be an above 500 team.
I'll go next. AFC North, I got the Ravens winning as well. I'm going to mix things up. I'm actually going to put the Browns at 2nd and the Bengals 3rd. And the Steelers, I don't think are going to do anything really. If they get past 500, good for them because the streak lives on, But with Russ and Justin Fields as your top options at quarterback, it's just not a good thing. I think we've talked about it. Justin Fields is an awesome quarterback in fantasy, but when it comes to real life football play, he's not somebody you want. And then Russ is just not as good as he once was. But I like Lamar. I think this is a good year for him. I think they've gotten a little bit better than what they were last year. But I'm really interested to see what the Browns do this year. I think the Browns, obviously, their defense is one of the best in the NFL. Honestly, the Brown season rides on Deshaun Watson, what he can do. So I think it's going to be Ravens, Browns, Bengals, and then Steelers.
For my predictions, I also have Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Steelers. Just to kind of put it into perspective, I have the Ravens and Browns winning 14 and 13 games respectively. And I have the Bengals winning 11 games, and then the Steelers all the way down at 5. My big thing, I kind of wrote a little phrase next to each team, kind of giving me like a mantra. And for the Ravens, it's the time is now. This is the year to make a run. The Chiefs are arguably, they're worse they've been on offense in a while. You need to take advantage of that because it's not going to last for long. And this is the Ravens' year to make a deep run, and I think that they will. The Browns, totally agree with Chase. It's on Deshaun. The defense has shown that it's ready to make a deep run in the playoffs, and they're a contender on defense. It's been 2 years now. Can Deshaun finally become – he doesn't have to be, pre-massaged Deshaun, but can he be 3/4 of that player? Can he be just a game manager, not make mistakes, and will this team to wins? Because you have Jerome Ford now, who's proven to be a solid backup running back, who's played some meaningful snaps. You hopefully have Nick Chubb coming back at some point. That's going to be a huge boost to the team, whether he performs well or not. Just the having him there, that presence of him being back is going to boost that team. And they have weapons. I think Amari Cooper is one of the most underrated receivers in the league and can consistently carve you up. And David Njoku's no slouch either. The Bengals all right on Jamar Chase. You're always going to have the questions of the offensive line and if Joe Burrow's going to stay healthy. Now with Zach Moss or Chase Brown, whoever you want to say their running back is, I do think that is a step down from prime Joe Mixon, and the last couple of years of Joe Mixon, and then the Steelers at the very bottom for the reasons I talked about earlier. Moving on to the AFC West, I'll start with the AFC West. I have the Chiefs in first. Not really a huge surprise there. Chiefs will chief. It was kind of my sentence there. I have the Raiders in second. I have the Raiders winning 10 games. I have them at 10-7. My big thing is what I said is they're fringe on the playoff hunt because I think there's going to be 3 teams from the North that make it in. And I think that could potentially block them out. I have the Chargers in third at 6-11. I think their big problem is they're trying to run the ball quite a lot. Based on all the moves they've made in the offseason, they just show that they're going to run the ball. And that works great if you're ahead. But if you're playing from behind and you have a quarterback like Justin Herbert, who's yet to really show that he's the man, with a bunch of receivers that have proved nothing in the league, how are you going to be able to come behind from a deficit and win ball games? And I don't think they're going to be able to. And then I have the Broncos at 4-13. I think they're in the middle of the rebuild. I don't think you should put a lot of expectations on them. I don't think Sean Payton's on the hot seat or anything. They're in their rebuild. They have their rookie quarterback. Take some positive steps forward throughout the season. Be a hard team to beat and move on next year with a top 10 draft pick and hope to get better. And that's all I got.
Go ahead, Kendall.
All right. Winning the division is the team I will not be naming, and we'll move on. I got the Raiders in second for the reasons I mentioned for the surprises, and the rest of the division is not that good. I have the Chargers and then the Broncos, but I could see that going either way. I think both these teams are going to be dog shit, and I think Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers was one of the more overrated moves of the offseason, in my opinion, because that kind of offense can work in college, but I don't really know off the top of my head the last time that run heavy, no matter what coach won a Super Bowl. So I just think nowadays NFL that kind of doesn't work anymore.
Boy. All right, so the AFC West is rough. But I think the first seed's going to be the Chiefs. I think they're just, they're the Chiefs. They have Andy Reid. They got Patrick Mahomes. They're always going to be competitive. I I think the Raiders, I don't know if they're going to be a playoff team, but I'm going to put them at 2. So it's probably a bold prediction to some, but I don't think the Raiders are as bad as people think they are. They have weapons all across the board. I mean, they got Brock Bowers now. They got Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Zamir White. I think people are a little too critical of Gardner Minshew. He doesn't have to be Tom Brady in his prime. He just has to be a game manager and let the skill position players do what they got to do. I think your offensive line, needs to figure it out. But I think if they can play at least average, you can win some games because I think your defense is good. I think your defense is above average. Antonio Pierce is a great defensive minded coach. So I'm gonna put you guys at 2. And then for the people that think Justin Herbert is a top elite quarterback kind of guy, here's a good year to prove it because you have absolutely no help there, brother. You have Joshua Palmer, DJ Chark, Ladd McConkey as your top 3 wide receivers. You have a 1-2 punch from Baltimore, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, who will probably give you combined total of 4 games this year. And then your tight end is Hayden Hurst. So hey, prove me wrong. I'm not a Justin Herbert guy. You put that on Twitter, they will light you up about it. People search Justin Herbert all day long just to defend him, and I don't like it. But
all 4 of their fans.
Yeah, shit. There's a lot of them. I'm gonna put the Chargers 3rd and the Broncos 4th, just because I don't like Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix is not good, and I also think Sean Payton is just gonna. He's not going to have a good year, and he won't get fired. But man, oh man, he might quit. He might leave the Broncos this year because there is no bright side at all. But yeah, that's where I'm going with the AFC West.
All right, moving across the coast here, we'll move over to the AFC East. Kendall, who you got?
I got the Jets winning it. I'm gonna run it back from last year, and I think that's kind of what all Jets fans are saying to themselves is we just want to run it back with even a halfway decent quarterback. Like a half Aaron Rodgers would be just fine. I got the Dolphins at 2 because I have the Bills taking a step back, got them at 3, and then the Patriots at 4. I don't see how the Patriots finish any higher than 4. I could see the Bills and Dolphins and Jets. Realistically, I could see them going any kind of way. I could see the Bills proving me wrong, but I'm going to need them to show it.
Chase?
So I think the top 3. This is going to be a fun division to watch because I think the top 3 could, like you said, go any which way you want to put it. The Jets are funny to me because they traded for Hassan Reddick and he wanted a contract. They didn't have a contract ready for him, and now he's holding out. The Dolphins, great from September to early November. After that, not great. The Bills, who do they have on offense that Josh Allen can rely on? I don't know. Patriots, you're not in the same conversation as them, to be honest with you. They're not starting Drake May this year because they don't want him to get hurt. He has no help over there, so Jacoby Brissett's going to take all the bumps and bruises along the way until the fans boo him off the field. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to predict this. I think it's going to be say the Dolphins start off really hot, and that's what puts them at 1. I think the Jets finish 2, Bills 3, and then Patriots all the way down here at 4.
All right. I have the Jets taking the win in the division at 11-6. I think it's time to see what you're made of. You waited a year. You had to sit through the fucking Zach Wilson experience, and it sucked. And now it's time to see if it is going to improve. And I think if you're a Jets fan, that first game, you're going to hold your breath for at least the first drive, and then maybe you'll get a sigh of relief seeing him jog off the field, and then just kind of see how it goes from there. Second place, I have the Dolphins at 10-7. I think the Dolphins are going to, again, start the year hot, but will they have another post-November slump? Yes. Now, if they don't, I could see that 10-7 quickly turn into a 13-4, 14-3 kind of year because they have the weapons, they have the coach, they have the overall just talent to do so, but it just never seems to work when it gets cold outside. I will say something I did look at the last like 7 games of the Dolphins season. I think 2 of them are outside, so that kind of helps. But I think it's like Cleveland and Chicago, so you might as well go ahead and chalk those up as L's because they're not going to play well in January in fucking Cleveland. But the more dome games they play, the better it could work out for them. And it's crazy to sit here and say that because, you know, usually it's just kind of like a joke people make about teams like, like the Saints forever. It was, they can't play outside of the dome. It's a true statement with Miami. As soon as the cold weather hits, it gets a little rough. I have the Bills at 6-11, no weapons. I hope their weapon's Keon Coleman. I have him in a lot of fantasy leagues, so I'm hoping and praying that he's a stud. But outside of him, Dalton Kincaid's probably going to lead that team in receiving yards, which is insane to think about. And then I have the Pats at 3-14. I think OJ Mayo's the right guy to ride the ship with. I really hope they take their time and are patient with him. Like you said, Drake May's going to get to sit and watch shitty ass football for a year. And if I was the Pats, if Jacoby Brissett gets hurt, I wouldn't even be against putting Joe Milton out there. Now that's going to cause a whole hell of a lot of fucking noise. But if I'm the Pats, let's let Joe Milton suck right from the rip and just prove really quick that he's not the guy. So when we bring Drake May out in year 2, there's no questions. But it is going to be a long year in New England. I don't remember who their 3 wins were against. I think I might have gave them like 1 division win at home or something like that, but it's going to be bad. But yeah, that's who I got. All right. Moving on to the AFC South. I'll start this one. OJ, fuck. Gerard Mayo. Hey, shout out to my boy OJ Mayo. Never should have gotten suspended. He just liked marijuana a little too much. OJ Mayo's a dog. I'm glad. You know what? Hey, sometimes you fuck up, but
I seen Chase mouthing Gerard, and I was like,
it's preseason for us too. You know,
Yeah.
You know, give us a break.
I fuck with OJ Mayo more anyway, so I'd be happy to see that. Moving on to the AFC South, I have the Colts going 10-7. This division is going to be a tight race because I have the Texans going 9-8. I think this could come down to like the last week of the season. So we'll see. I think they're going to have some growing pains, but I do think it's going to be a tight race. I have the Texans in second place. I think they're going to regress. And then the Jags, I have them at 5-12. It's going to be an absolute just wild year down there. I don't think they're great. I don't like their weapons. I'm one of the least pro Christian Kirk guys there is. I think he is mediocre at best. Evan Ingram we'll see. He very well could be hurt most of the year like he was for most of his time in New York. And then at 4-13, I have the Titans. They're just rebuilding. Will Levis is going to struggle. This team's going to struggle. Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears is not the answer. So that's who I'll take in last place. And, I think they're going to be a tough team to beat, and they'll just try it all again next year, hopefully with a little bit better team.
All right. Well, we finally got to a division. Wow, that was bad. A division that we are completely opposite on. I do believe in the Texans. I think they're going to easily win this division. Just to throw a record out there, I'll go 12-5. Jags, I have in second. I think the last time you've seen the Jags without Calvin Ridley, that's when they were good and they came back and won in that playoff game against the Chargers down like 30 points. I think him and T-Law and Christian Kirk have a connection, and Evan Ingram is a solid tight end, and I really like Brian Thomas Jr. So I like the Jags. Third, I have the Titans because I like their weapons a lot. I think Calvin Ridley getting another new home, not with Trevor Lawrence, could be beneficial. I felt like, just my opinion, last year there was just something off there. Like, even towards that, like, there were times when T-Law would still, like, just not look his way. And I don't know if something happened or what, but they got Ridley, D-Hop, Tyler Boyd, and I think Levis could take a step. So I have the Titans at 3, and I have your division winner, the Colts, finishing in last. I don't think they're going to be that bad. Like, I think they may go like 7-10 average. I just think the Titans are going to be like 8-9. Like, I just think it's going to be close. But I don't know with Anthony Richardson's play style, I don't know yet if that's going to be sustainable for a full season. And I don't think the Joe Flacco experiment can work 2 years in a row.
It's a tough one because I'm doing this just on the fly. I'm going to go Texans. I think CJ Stroud will kind of regress like most second-year quarterbacks do. They do hit like a wall. But I don't think it affects them enough. I think they have a good enough defense and good enough skilled players to, carry them to a division title. And then the last 3 teams, I have no idea, to be honest with you. But I'm going to go with my gut here. I think the Jaguars are going to be second. I don't think they make the playoffs, though. I like Brian Thomas. I think he's probably a better wide receiver right now than Calvin Ridley is. Whatever. The Colts, I'm going to put the Colts in last. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Titans third. The reason why I'm putting the Colts in last is because I think Anthony Richardson is just he is one of the biggest question marks in the NFL. And if he's good, the Colts could be a scary team. But if he's not good, oh boy, that Colts team is going to be in for a frustrating year. So that's where I'm at with the AFC South.
All right, moving on to the better half of the NFL.
No,
the
NFC. Don't even start.
Chase, NFC.
Yeah, definitely. I was fighting a sneeze there. Sorry.
Yeah. So
I'll say this: heading into last year, it was AFC here, NFC down here. Over the offseason, the gap is closed. But still think the AFC is better.
Flipped.
No.
So, moving to the best side of the NFL, we're moving to the NFC North. We'll go ahead and Chase. Why don't you start it for us this time, man? Who you got?
I'm gonna go Lions. Give me the Bears, Packers, and Vikings. Vikings are absolutely screwed. Packers, I think, are getting I think they're a little overrated. I think Jordan Love's going to be good. I don't think that he's going to be as good as he was at the end of last year. But if he is, oh boy, look out. Bears are going to surprise some people. And the Lions, I believe, if I remember correctly, I heard that Jared Goff is playing 13 of 17 games indoors this season, if I'm not mistaken. And so he loves playing inside. So I think all of his away games are all of his
non-divisional away games.
I think it's the Packers and Bears are two of the 3. That's a terrible place to play outdoors, by the way. Green Bay's cold, Chicago's cold, and both of them are in late November or December. So, but yeah, Lions, Bears, Packers, Vikings, bear down.
I got the Lions winning. I have the Packers at 2, Bears at 3. I do agree with Chase, though. I think the Bears are going to take a massive step, and I think they can be competitive and even very much so compete for a wild card spot. So I could see Packers or Bears at 2 or 3 kind of going either way. And then Vikings, I have by far finishing 4th in this division. And I think this is kind of, I don't know if it's slept on anymore because, like Chase said, the Packers are getting a lot of hype, but I think this is one of the top 3 better divisions in football now.
All right. Just some foreshadowing here. every team that I have in the NFC, except for one, is winning double-digit games. Everyone in the AFC I have winning double-digit games to make the playoffs. So in the NFC North, I have the Lions at 13-4. Time is now, just like the Ravens. Got to go. Got to take advantage, strike, and try to make a late playoff push now. Jared Goff isn't getting any younger. Your players are going to start becoming more and more expensive, and you need to kind of take advantage of it now before you kind of get into a Bengals situation where you got to figure out what you're going to do on a salary cap front. I have the Packers in second at 12-5. I think they just have a really solid offense. They're a tough place to play at home too. I think that's going to give them, a couple extra wins. I think Jordan Love is a solid quarterback, but they just have a lot of weapons around him, and I think that they're going to take advantage of that. I have the Bears at 7-10 next year. I think 7-10 for a Bears fan, it's not a bad year, especially if Caleb shows, promise throughout the year. So that's who I have in third. Then I have the Vikings at 5-12. Sam Darnold sucks, and no amount of soul searching and bench riding will ever change that. So yeah, they're going to be pretty bad. Justin Jefferson, I'm sorry that you're stuck there. Maybe like Jamar Chase won't resign and say fuck the Bengals, and then you can demand a trade to the Bengals, play with Joe. Hey, that'd be kind of cool. But other than that, until J.J. McCarthy comes back next year, because they're not going to draft a quarterback in this next draft because they have J.J. waiting on the shelf. So you're waiting on a rookie quarterback in year 2, and you get to play with Sam Darnold for a year. So I'm sorry, Jay Jettis. It's going to be a long year for Vikings fans everywhere. Moving on to the NFC West, I'll go ahead and start. I got the 49ers at 14-3. Consistency is the key with the 49ers. They're just – I could see Christian McCaffrey getting hurt and that throw a wrench in some things, but it hasn't happened yet, so I'm not going to sit here and say it. Sorry, Chase. I hope that doesn't happen. You got Debo and Ayuk finally, squared away and settled. Trent Williams now is the question mark. They're not going 14-3 without Trent Williams. He is one of the most important players on that team. When you have a quarterback like Brock Purdy, who needs to be able to sit in the pocket and dissect the game and not have to worry about a whole lot, you're the best left tackle in football being not on the field becomes a big problem. So moving down from there, I have the Rams at 12-5. I'm calling this the last dance because Matthew Stafford is old as fuck and he's running out of time. He's already won one. So, maybe he can win him another. Moving from there, got the Cardinals at 11-6. I think they're getting there. They're starting to turn their corner a little bit. I still don't really know how good their defense is. I can't even really think of any really good defensive players that play for the Cardinals off the top of my head. But I do know that Trey McBride and who am I missing? Tell me who I'm missing.
Well, one of the best safeties in football, bud.
Buda Baker. Oh, Buda Baker. He's old.
He can still play, bud.
Well, I know they got Trey McBride and Kyler Murray, and I'm really interested to see what Trey Vincent does. I think he will soon take over for – that's right. Trey Vincent plays in Arizona. Jonathan Brooks is the one that plays in Carolina, right?
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. So I have Trey Benson taking over for James Conner at some point in the season, and I think he could be a really solid player. So I have them in third, and then I have the Seahawks at 6-11. I think it's going to be a quarterback carousel again. I think Geno Smith is kind of on the way out. I have Sam Howell there. You kind of saw it at the end of last year with Drew Lock a little bit. They started playing, hot potato a little bit, and I think they're going to start doing that even more with Sam Howell, which I don't think is the answer. I'd rather just ride it out with Geno than start giving Sam Howell snaps because I don't think it's going to be a good enough upgrade to kill the confidence of Geno Smith. But I do think they're going to play hot potato a little bit, and they're going to finish at 6-11.
I have the same exact order is Wyatt: 49ers, Rams, Cardinals, Seahawks. I have the Cardinals at 3. I felt like that one was going to be kind of a surprise. I have them at 3 and Seahawks at 4. Not so because I think the Cardinals are going to be good. I just think the Seahawks are going to be that bad.
Yeah, I'm going to go the same. There's not a ton to like about Seattle, really. And I don't know if Geno can be that guy again for a year, especially if he lost to Drew Lock last year. So, Sam Howell's coming to play, I guess.
All right, Chase. NFC East.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna obviously start. I'm gonna start at the bottom. We give it to the Giants. Daniel Jones is absolute
shocker. Oh my god.
Yeah. He just can't throw the ball at all. They did get Brian Burns. Congrats, I guess. That's cool. But other than that, you got Malik Neighbors. That's something to be excited about. If Malik Neighbors can play football, I think he'll win you a game or two, I think, but you got to find a quarterback next year if you want to compete. Then I'm going to give it to the Commanders at number 3. I don't think there's enough on offense to make some noise. Also, all their players they got this past offseason would have been fantastic additions in 2017, 2018. Example, Bobby Wagner, Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler. Wow. That is an all-decade team from the 2010s. Unfortunately, it's 2024, and that does not matter. However, the Commanders do have a good rookie tight end behind Zach Ertz. And what's his name? Ben Sinnott?
Ben Sinnott, yep.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just curious to see how Jaden Daniels does. If he can sling it, he can run, he'll be exciting. He'll win a game or two for the Commanders, but they're not going to be great this year. Cowboys, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. I think they're going to be awful. But I think the NFC East is awful besides one team, and that would be the Philadelphia Eagles, who I think are kind of underrated by people. I think Kellen Moore is going to do plenty for that offense. I think that if you look at some of the tape from last year and you look at the routes that the receivers are running for Jalen Hurts, the middle of the field was just not being used at all. It was just a bunch of just go routes and just outside routes. No easy routes, nothing underneath. Zero blitz comes in. Guess what? Receivers, they're running 20 yards downfield. Not a care in the world. They didn't have answers to the blitz last year. And I think Kellen Moore is going to figure that out. I think the addition of Saquon Barkley is going to be huge. And then on defense, we'll see what happens. I know we got Bryce Huff, who is a fantastic third down back or third down edge rusher. I don't know why I said back, but for the Jets last year. Now he's playing full time, so we'll see what he does. Cornerbacks and safeties are a lot better than they were last year. The linebacking core is still a question mark, but I'm gonna put them at first and go Birds.
All right, I'll start at first. Eagles. I think they win pretty easily. Chase the Eagles fan, he hit on all the points. I got the Cowboys at 2. I think in most people's eyes, they probably a 2-team race just for an average fan, but I think the Eagles will win that division by at least 2-3 games. Commanders at 3. I'm a believer in Jaden Daniels. I wanted the miracle to happen and wish upon a star that we would have traded up to get Jaden Daniels because he has connections with AP. But that didn't happen. But I still like Jaden Daniels a lot. So I got them at 3. And then the Giants are going to be up there for worst team in the league this year. So.
All right. Well, I'm a little off the beaten path here in some ways, and in some ways I completely agree. I'll start from the bottom too. I have the Giants at 3-14. One word, ass. I think Brian Dable gets fired. Little foreshadowing to the hot seats conversation. Second to last, I have the Commanders going 4-13. They're in the rebuild year. I think 4-13 could raise a little bit, like a 6-7 win team maybe as their ceiling. But I think 4-13 is just where I put them. And that's kind of the thing with me doing these records. Like, you got to take them with a grain of salt because that's week 1 rosters, no injuries, week 1 expectations kind of thing. And then I have a tie at first. I have the Cowboys and Eagles both going 13-4. I have the Cowboys technically winning the division based off of division record. I know. Now, the more I look at their schedule, the more I don't like it. And I could see them dropping more than 4 games, more like 6 games. So that would then put the Eagles at 13-4 in the division winner. What I have for the Cowboys is regular season warriors. Don't think it's going to translate well to the playoffs. And then second place Eagles is, can the offense improve? I think it can. A lot of the stories coming out about how the offense was last year. I think it's actually going to be better to see Jalen Hurts take more of an active role and be a leader in the offense, and it's going to produce better results. But yeah, that's who I got in the NFC East. Chase, feel free to berate me now if you'd like.
Oh, you have your opinions. I have mine, man. Just
all right.
Have at it. Have at it, bud.
NFC South, the worst division in the NFL. I have my Saints winning the division at 8-9. That is the NFC South in a nutshell. I actually did it when I was making these records. I was like, man, is there any way I can make the Saints worse than this? And I was like, no. Big thing with the Saints, Derek Carr is going to be as good as his offensive line is. Well, newsflash, the offensive line got worse over the offseason. Ryan Ramczyk is out for the year, which means Trevor Penning is now playing right tackle because he was too bad of a left tackle and a left guard to stick to either one of those positions. So they thought, hey, let's move him to the right side and move our rookie right tackle to left tackle. So, who never played left tackle in college at all. So that'll be interesting to see. I hope he can adjust well. I think the defense, other than it being old, is solid. And if we can give Derek Carr the time, I think you're going to see guys like Rashid Shaheed and Juwan Johnson and Chris Olave shine. If not, it's going to be the Alvin Kamara show, and he's going to have 15 rushes and 12 receptions.
Need it, bud.
And we'll still lose. Because it's going to be check downs for days. It's going to be like watching Notre Dame play the other night. Just check down after check down after check down. Moving on from them, I have the Falcons also going 8-9. I have the Saints having the better division record. That's what gets them above the Falcons. For all the reasons I talked about earlier, I have the Bucs at 5-12. I think they're going to regress. I've never had any confidence in Baker Mayfield. He has proven me wrong, but I'm hopeful now he will prove me right. I do like Mike Evans a lot, but I do think this team is just going to struggle. They have a pretty hard schedule. We have the AFC West this year, so that's some tough games for some of these teams. Having to play the Chiefs and the Raiders is going to be tough for the bottom 2 teams here. And then finally have the Panthers at 3-14. They're rebuilding. They didn't get very much better in the offseason. They lost Brian Burns, and I feel like that's huge. Your leader of your defense is gone. It'll be interesting to see Jonathan Brooks, just like I talked about Trey Benson earlier, just to see if he takes the role from Chuba Hubbard, because he's just been kind of, toting the rock, not been very great ever since Christian McCaffrey left. And then they try to bring Miles Sanders in. He's absolutely trash. So Chuba just kind of kept, being mid, and it'd be okay enough. But hopefully they can get better in the backfield. And I think Bryce Young will play better, but him playing better won't result in wins.
All right. I have a three-way tie in this division. Also at 8-9, Bucks, Saints, and Falcons. All three 8-9. I just went with I didn't go through every single game and actually pick it on the website like Wyatt did, so I couldn't tell you who would have the tiebreaker. So I just put Bucks because I feel like that I have the most confidence in the Bucks to win that division. Then I went Saints, then Falcons, then Panthers. This division's dog shit. I don't want to spend too much time on it.
Give me the Panthers win it all.
All right, bud.
Hot take.
Well, that's not a hot take. That's a lie. The Panthers were 32nd last year in pressure rate, and they traded away Bron Burns. So you tell me how that fixes anything.
I can't wait for week one. We play them week one.
I would like to add that the Raiders playing this division is another key reason why I think another key reason why we could sneak into the playoffs.
I gave you 3 free wins there.
Yeah.
I think
I
saw
tell you who the one loss was.
I saw not so long ago where somebody said the Falcons were going to win like 13, 14 games this year. And then I thought to myself, man, Kirk Cousins is really that guy, huh? At that point, you got to really believe in him. I don't, but I think he'll do better than Desmond Ridder did last year. They got Matthew Judon as well, which is cool. I don't think he's going to be as great as people think he is. And then of course they got Justin Simmons, who is older but still solid. But I don't know who I'm going to pick to win this division. All 4 teams are just not great. So do any mini money mo, and I'm going to pick the Bucks to win it all or win this division, and then get bounced in the first round.
All right. Now that we have our predictions, we've talked about the teams that are going to be really good. We've talked about teams that are going to be really bad. And as a result of that, we can now talk about what teams maybe seeing a new head coach going into next season. Some hot seat candidates. I'll start with mine. I have 4. My first one's Dennis Allen. Man, I hope and pray his ass is fired this offseason. I want him gone so bad. I hate defensive-minded head coaches. No offense, Kendall. I hate them. I don't like them. I like head coaches that can call plays. And I think Dennis Allen is one of the premier defensive coordinators after he is fired, but he is not a head coach. He'll be like a Steve Spagnuolo, where these top elite teams are going to want him to be their defensive coordinator, and he'll be a defensive coordinator for a long time. But his time as a head coach has been up for a while. Second's Brian Dable. They're just going to be too bad for them to hold on to him another year, even though I do think he is a solid head coach, and actually the coach I hope the Saints hire if Dennis Allen gets fired at the end of the year. Moving from there, I think Doug Peterson gets fired this year. With as bad as I have the Jags playing, I think if the Jags go 5-12 like I predicted, there's no way you can keep Doug, because he's really got to start reevaluating things. And then kind of I don't know, I haven't really heard a whole lot about this guy getting fired, but I think it could very well happen, is Kevin O'Connell. There's been a lot of question marks about him as a coach, his energy, his play calling. And I think at a 5-12 record, and I think they're going to want to start over, and they're going to want to start over with a new head coach, and they're going to let Kevin O'Connell walk.
All right. Well, I got 3. Wyatt said one of them, and that was Dennis Allen. I think that one's kind of, if the Saints don't manage to win that shitty division, he's going to get fired. I just kind of think that's guaranteed. My other 2 are a little bit out there, a little bit bold predictions here. I do think Sean Payton's on the hot seat for one specific scenario. I think if the Broncos are going to be as bad as at least I think they're going to be, like 3 wins bad, I could see them go ahead and scrapping this idea, get a nowadays current kind of head coach in there to go with Bo Nix, because Sean Payton, even last year with Russell Wilson, he's trying to run that Saints offense, and he doesn't have Drew Brees, so it doesn't work. My other one is Mike Tomlin. I don't know if that's going to come as a surprise to y'all or not, but I think the streak of going above 500, the streak itself, not Mike Tomlin, the streak is kind of overrated because a lot of those years, and especially recently, like some of those years they haven't made the playoffs. Like they'll go 9-8, have a winning record, but they don't make the playoffs or they just get bounced, like blown out. So I don't have them continuing that streak. So therefore, I think they could possibly be entering a rebuild after this. And I just want to put disclaimer on this. I do think Mike Tomlin is an elite head coach, but this is more so of thinking as the Steelers front office.
Nice. I have two from the NFC East. Ready? One is Mike McCarthy. I think that he only has a 1-3 playoff record after a couple of 12-win seasons. I think Jerry Jones is tired of losing the playoffs and in embarrassing fashion as well. We can't forget about the Dak Prescott slide. We can't forget about Zeke getting absolutely ran over. And then last year, it was a blowout against – who was it against? Packers. It was a blowout. It was a blowout for a minute. Then, of course, they closed the gap towards the end, but it wasn't really a game. I think Mike McCarthy could be gone, especially if they have a bad season. The other person in the NFC East is Nick Sirianni. I think that he is on the hot seat. And here's the reason why. If you have listened to the Linc Lineup, I've said in the past, and me and Bryce have said in the past, that the Eagles wanted Kellen Moore a couple years ago before he went to the Chargers. And I think that they don't like the fact that Nick Sirianni is a CEO type head coach. I know that works some places, but in order for that to work, you have to hit on all your coordinator hires because they don't call plays. They're morale guys. They keep the locker room together, but at some point you got to call plays. Nick Sirianni can't call plays on either offense or defense. And so if the Eagles don't have a serious run this year, I can see them firing Nick Sirianni for Kellen Moore.
Right. I don't think that's that out there. I thought about putting Nick Sirianni on mine.
I like it. Moving on, we got the coaches. Talk about some more players individually. Rookies to watch, Kendall. Who are some rookies for you that you're interested to see are going to play well and how they're going to do?
I'm going to start with the more obvious one, given I'm a Raiders fan, going Brock Bowers, number one. One of the more complete top tight end prospects we've seen coming out of the draft in quite a long time. I think he has George Kittle upside with his receiving and blocking kind of being potentially elite at both. And I think our offensive line is a question mark, as Chase touched on earlier. So I think Gardner could, or AOC, if he takes over, whoever the quarterback is, could be looking for that safety valve kind of quick. And I think Brock could have a good year because of that. Number two, I have Jaden Daniels. I touched on him earlier. I like him. I think he's going to be a great fantasy quarterback, even as a rookie. Three, I have Marvin Harrison Jr., and I point this out to say, yes, he was like an elite blue chip prospect, but I have him on here because I think he could be, after this year, in that top 5 wide receiver consideration. I think he has potential to be that good, and wide receiver stacked, so that'd be jumping a lot of people. And then 4 or 5, Brian Thomas Jr. and Jalen Polk. I think by the end of the season, both those receivers could end up being the wide receiver 1 for their respective teams. If Drake May does play at all this year, or Milton, they're both rookies. They got to Polk, Drake May. They got to have some kind of connection in camp. So just kind of put that together. And the Patriots are going to be playing from behind. So those are my 5 rookies to watch this year.
Well, Chase, how about you?
I feel lazy because I'm about to just pick one from offense and defense. The one guy I'm watching, and I would bet money on, he's at plus 1,400 right now, is Malik Neighbors. I think that the ball's got to go with somebody in New York, and there aren't many options other than Linc Neighbors. So he's going to get a lot of volume this year. So I think he has a great chance to win it. On defense, I'm going to be a homer. Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback for the Eagles, he's going to get a lot of playing time early. Whereas I think some of these guys may not win or earn a lot of playing time right off the rip, but it seems like Quinyon Mitchell is. He was tremendous at Toledo last year, and he's looked good so far in training camp and preseason. So that's my bet to win Defensive Rookie of the Year at plus 1,500 as well. So place your bets.
All right. I have 4 of the 6 that haven't been named already, so I'll just name those 4. Number 1's Keon Coleman. I think Josh Allen's going to have to throw it to somebody, just like you talked about with Malik Neighbors. I think that guy will be Keon Coleman. I really do think he could be a very solid wide receiver 1 for the Bills in due time. Number 2 is Blake Corum. With the news of Kyron Williams being a punt returner this year, small frame guy, more time on the field, more snaps, more hits. I think Blake Corum is already going to get some of the running back share. But I think as the season wears on, we now have 17 games. If he consistently is returning punts every single game, the longer the season goes on, Blake Corum's role is going to expand to try to keep Kyron healthy throughout the season. And I think Blake Corum is a stud, and I think he's going to be a good running back in the league. Number 3, Peyton Wilson, linebacker for the Steelers. I don't know if y'all seen some of the clips of this kid. He's a dog. And he is a linebacker with a lot of grit, and he just kind of fits that Steelers culture, and I think he's really going to succeed under Mike Tomlin and be a really good rookie linebacker for the Steelers. And I'm excited to see how he does long term. And then finally, got to throw some love to the offensive line, Mr. Joe Alt for the Chargers. In college, this kid played 1,100 passing snaps and allowed 4 sacks and 1,100 snaps. That's insanity. Now, is he going to go 1,100? Sorry about that. Is he going to go 1,100 snaps with only allowing 4 sacks in the NFL? Probably not. Probably not in that division. Max Crosby plays him twice a year. And even if he lines up on Rashawn's side more than Joe, I don't know which side Max lines up on more often, but he's still they're probably going to put him over there just to test the rookie a little bit. And he's probably going to get burnt at least once. But I think Joe Alt, honestly, if I had to pick one player from this class to be a Hall of Famer without seeing any of them play in the regular season, Joe Alt would be my pick. Just from his pedigree and how he's played in college, and just him being, a mountain boy, white tackle that has no accessories and just fits the mold of a Joe Thomas kind of guy. I think he's going to be really good. So
Max lines up at left end more, goes up against right tackles.
So he'll be on Rashawn's side more than Joe. But all right. So moving on. We have one more thing to talk about before we give our predictions for the Super Bowl, boys. And that is awards. Just so everyone's aware of what awards we'll be picking for the Hydro & Co. Honors prediction show. MVP, Defensive Player and Offensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie and Defensive Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, and Comeback Player of the Year. We can just roll through all of them. Kendall, if you want to start and just work your way down the list and kind of give us who you think you got and why.
Okay. MVP, I got CJ Stroud. I think the offensive weapons that he has, I don't think there's any excuse of why he can't be in the discussion. And I just kind of like him as a player as a whole. So I went with him. Defensive Player of the Year. You're going to notice a trend here, by the way. I have a lot of first-time winners. Defensive Player of the Year, Max Crosby. I think he didn't get any kind of consideration last year because we didn't make the playoffs. But if you look at sacks, tackles for loss, pressures, hurries, all that goes into a defensive end kind of stats and metrics, as a whole, he was top 2 most complete defensive end last year, like run and pass. So I think he gets it this year. Offensive player of the year, I have Breece Hall. I think he has a monster year for the Jets. He exploded last year after they finally benched Dalvin Cook after he was kind of getting the feel for his knee back. And that was with no good quarterback. So defenses were trying to game plan for it, and he was still going off. Coach of the year, I have Robert Saleh because I'm high on the Jets. Again, first time winner. Offensive rookie of the year, I have Jaden Daniels. And the reason I have Jaden Daniels is because I feel like for MVP, offensive rookie of the year, especially, they heavily favor quarterbacks. Don't think that's any kind of secret. I think Jaden Daniels will have better numbers than Caleb Williams this year. But if the Bears could find a way to get in the playoffs, I think Caleb will probably win it at that point. But I'm going to go with Jaden. Defensive rookie of the year, this one was tough for me, but I just did Dallas Turner, defensive end for the Vikings. And comeback player of the year, Aaron Rodgers. So I have 3 Jets on here: comeback player of the year, coach of the year, and offensive player of the year. I think Aaron Rodgers, I haven't looked at the betting odds at all, but I'd say he's in the top 2 at least favorites for it.
He's number 1 with plus 175.
Yeah. So I'm going Aaron Rodgers.
All right, Chase.
All right. So I'll start with MVP, and I'll actually list the betting odds for the top. I think it's 10. They have Dak Prescott at 10 and plus 1,800. Brock Purdy at 9 with plus 16. Lamar Jackson at 8 at plus 16. Jordan Love at 1,400. Jalen Hurts and C.J. Stroud both at plus 1,000. Joe Burrow at plus 900 and Josh Allen at plus 850, and then Patrick Mahomes at plus 500. I think I don't know. I think Jalen could win it, but also my gut tells me Lamar is going to find a way to win it. So I'm going to pick Lamar. I think Lamar Jackson's going to do it again this year. I'm not picking Patrick Mahomes. I'm not sure how Josh Allen's that high, to be honest with you, or Joe Burrow. But give me Lamar. Offensive player of the year, I'm going to take Chris McCaffrey at plus 750. Him and Tyreek Hill are both tied at plus 750, followed by CD Lamb at plus 1,000. But I'm going to take CMC mainly because I need him to do that for fantasy. I need him so bad in fantasy. It hurts.
Where's Breece on that? I'm kind of curious.
Breece Hall is 7th at plus, or no, he is 7th at plus 1,200. He's tied with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. And then since I already said everybody else, Amon-Ra St. Brown at plus 15, Bijan Robinson at plus 1,600, and Saquon Barkley at plus 2,200. Defensive player of the year. Fun fact, Max Crosby is 3rd at plus 700. And I'm going to ride with you, buddy. I'm going to take Max Crosby as well. I think he'll have a good year. Micah Parsons and TJ Watt are both tied at plus 550. Followed by Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, Aiden Hutchinson, Chris Jones, Josh Allen, and Will Anderson Jr. Offensive Rookie of the Year. I already said my pick because I fell asleep at the wheel and kind of gave it away. I'm taking Malik Neighbors at plus 1,400. Caleb Williams is plus 130. Jaden Daniels is plus 500. Defensive Rookie of the Year. I gave it away again. Quinn Mitchell at plus 1,500. Leatu Latu and Dallas Turner lead the way at plus 400. Comeback Player of the Year. I don't even care about the sword, to be honest with you. But Aaron Rodgers did snap his shit first game of the year, so that pretty much is a given. And then Coach of the Year, I'm going to give it to Matt Eberflus. I think he's going to take a Bears team that was rough last year and turn them into a playoff contending team. Matt Eberflus and Jim Harbaugh are both tied at plus 900 for the number 1 spot.
All right. For me, at MVP, I have Lamar. I agree with Chase, and I think he's just going to find a way. But just something in my gut is telling me Lamar. Defensive Player of the Year, I was kind of stuck between Nick Bosa and Max Crosby this morning, but I came in with Max Crosby, so I'm riding with you guys on Max. Offensive Player of the Year, I have Tyreek Hill. think Tyreek Hill is going to have another one of those monster seasons, and is going to. And for fantasy, I need him to have that. So we're gonna try to affirm that. Offensive Rookie of the Year, I have Jaden Daniels as well. I think he's the best quarterback in this class. I'll make that statement right now. I think 10 years from now, he's going to be the best quarterback in this class, and he's going to be held in that regard. I'm not saying that Caleb Williams is ass, but I think Jaden Daniels is the guy. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I got a curveball out of left field here. I'm going to be a homer and take Kool-Aid. Well, Kool-Aid McKinstry. Now, it is not easy to win any sort of Player of the Year award as a corner. You got to have a lot of interceptions to do so. And I think with the defense being the way it is, Kool-Aid's going to get a lot of meaningful snaps early on. And I think there's a potential that Kool-Aid could run away and be that guy. I'm hoping that he is. I think he is the person there to replace Marshawn Lattimore at some point. And I hope that he shows that early on in his career this year and is that guy. Comeback Player of the Year, I have Aaron Rodgers. If you were to say anybody other than Aaron Rodgers, I'd say Kirk Cousins. That's really your only other option. I feel like that's worth even discussing. And then Coach of the Year, I have a guy that is a leader of men, who is someone that is going to take a team that has a lot of question marks and bring them together and forge a bond between them that is going to lead them to a very successful season.
Dennis Allen.
My man, not my man, but a great man and a great coach. And that's Antonio Pierce.
Let's go.
So that's my pick for Coach of the Year. And that's all I got for that. That's all my award selections, and that's all of our award selections. So,
Wyatt, I've never been more proud of you in my life, buddy.
Now is the nitty gritty. This is the prediction that we're going to look back on in 5 months and see if we were right or wrong. The Super Bowl. I'm just going to get mine out of the way so y'all can laugh. You might not laugh at mine. Maybe you won't. For the Super Bowl this year, drum roll please, I have the Ravens and the Lions. Both teams I put on my thing, time is now. And I think they're both going to make it to the promised land, and I have the Ravens winning the Super Bowl.
All right, bud. Can I get a drum roll for mine?
Yeah.
I've also got the Lions and the Ravens. But I've got them flipped. I think the Lions win it. I don't know what it is about the Lions, but they obviously have talent. But if you stack up like just rosters, like especially skill positions against some of the other elite teams, you'd be like, I'd take the other team. But I think offensive line for them gets kind of lost in the shuffle because I think people kind of forget how important that is because people get caught up in fantasy football. But again, I don't know what it is, but they just look like a team. That's what I was going with that. So Lions beat the Ravens.
A Dan Campbell post Super Bowl celebration would make families. It'd be insanity.
Yeah.
That'd be good for Detroit. But I'm not picking the Lions. I'm not picking the Ravens. Here's my boldest prediction I've ever came up with. Here's what's going to happen. Yeah, we can get drum roll. So I have the Eagles and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and I think that the Eagles will face the 49ers in the championship game, just like the year we did go to the Super Bowl again. And I think people are going to we're going to be underdogs because people are going to be like, "Well, they whooped your ass last year pretty badly." And we go to San Francisco or we're at Philly, doesn't matter where, and we beat the 49ers. And this time, I think the Eagles finish the job, and Jalen Hurts finally wins him a championship that has evaded him for so long.
In New Orleans.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be great, actually. But I think the Eagles do it this year. I know it's such a homer pick, but I believe in them. And just for the record, we didn't pick anybody outside the top 5 in odds for Super Bowl win. So The Chiefs lead the way at plus 500, followed by the 49ers at plus 600. The Ravens are plus 1,000. Eagles and Lions are both plus 1,200, according to BetMGM.
Hey, bud, don't feel bad. If my team had that high expectations, I'd be picking them too, like the Orioles.
We're going to do it.
I'm
going to do it.
I'm going to pick the Orioles every year if this core stays together. So
we're going to do
I picked the Saints last year. I picked Derek Carr MVP last year. So I respect the homer pick. All right, so boys, moving on into the last little part of our show here. We're going to be talking about week one. A lot of, expectations are going to be proved wrong in week one. A lot of assumptions are going to be made in week one. We got some pretty good games going on in week one. So I'm just going to read the games out, home and away teams, and you guys tell me who you got, and we'll just kind of go from there. Thursday night, 7:20 p.m., you got Baltimore traveling to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. Who do we have?
I'll start. This should come no surprise. Give me the Baltimore Ravens to roll into KC and get that opening day of NFL season win.
Chase.
The Ravens are 3-point underdogs against Kansas City, but I think the Ravens win this one. I think the Chiefs start off kind of slow like they did last year, and panic will set in. But Chiefs will chief.
I also have the Ravens winning. I think very similar to last year. I think we saw that the Chiefs needed some time for their offense to kind of, that cohesion to set in and kind of figure out what their identity was as a team on offense. And I think that's going to take time again this year. And I think that the Ravens game is going to be a very good learning game for them. And a lot of people are going to say they're washed afterwards, and then they're going to prove us all wrong. But yeah, I have the Baltimore Ravens winning that game. Moving on to Friday Night Lights in Brazil. Going into the jungle, hoping to come back alive. There's no home team, but it says the Eagles are the home team, and they play the Green Bay Packers. Chase, how bad are the Eagles going to win this game?
I don't know, because whenever me and Bryce did our season predictions, I actually had the Eagles losing this one. So,
all right. So,
yeah.
do you stick with that prediction?
Don't want to be. No, fuck that. We win every game. Go Birds.
All right, Kendall.
I've also got the Packers, and I think that this is going to end up being the game of week one. I think this is going to be a really good game, and Josh Jacobs runs for 150 in his first game with the Packers.
Oh, the fuck you will.
I have the Eagles winning this game. I'm thinking Jake Elliott from 47 yards to win it.
There you go.
Keep that in mind. Sunday, the first Sunday, football is back, boys. Great day. Probably going to have something cooking up in the crock pot. Maybe some rotel, maybe some chili. Something nice. It's supposed to be a little cooler up here this weekend, so it'll be really nice. It's supposed to be like 72 degrees, which is insane. It hasn't been that cold in months. But it starts with not the greatest of games. We have Pittsburgh traveling to Atlanta to play the Falcons.
I took the Falcons. Not high on either one of these teams, as we discussed. I just took the home team, and yeah, that's about it.
Falcons are 3-point favorites, and I think they will win by more than 3 points. Give me the Falcons.
I also took the Falcons here. Moving on to our next game. Now, Chase, you can confirm this with the betting odds, but one team has a 26% win probability on Sleeper, and the other one has a 74%. 74% team being the home team in Buffalo, hosting the Arizona Cardinals. I have the Buffalo Bills winning this game, mostly because of the fact they're at home. But I would not be surprised if the Cardinals came out with this game. And I really feel like if you're a betting man, I don't know what the odds are, but they're probably favorable to where betting on the Cardinals wouldn't be a bad idea.
The Cardinals are 6.5-point underdogs going into this game. So I'm still taking the Bills, though. I wouldn't take the points, but I'm taking the Bills to win straight up.
Yeah, I took the Bills to win straight up, but I am a betting man, so I will be taking. I will be taking the Cardinals spread on this. I think they'll cover it.
I'll take your spread.
Hey, yo, moving on. We're moving into a game of two young quarterbacks coming together to play, and the debut of rookie quarterback Caleb Williams at home against the Tennessee Titans. Looks like Chicago is going to be favored in this one. I picked the Bears to win with Caleb Williams' rookie debut. I think he's going to have a pretty good game, and they're going to take one for the Bears.
Yeah, I also took the Bears, and I think this is going to be a very sneaky, exciting game to be watching. Bears are going to want to show off that new toy, and Will Levis showed last year he's just going to throw it deep. If he's thinking even a little bit, he's just going to chuck it. So I think this could be an exciting game.
Will Levis likes showing off his toy. I'm taking the Bears though. They're 4-point favorites, and I would take the Bears -4 there.
Oh golly! All right, moving on. We have Bengals hosting New England. Not much to say here. I have Cincinnati winning pretty easily.
Bengals by 1 million. Bengals are 8.5 points favorites, and I would just take that. There's no reason to sweat that one.
All right. I think potentially this could be one of the games of the week. This next game, divisional game, to start off. We have Houston going to Lucas Oil to play the Colts week 1. I have Houston Texans winning this game.
I've also got the Texans winning.
Texans are 3-point favorites. I'm gonna be different. I'll take the Colts. I don't know why. I'm just taking the Colts.
Right. Hammer the over on the 3. Take the points for the Texans.
Moving on.
Colts money line.
Two Florida teams going at it. North side versus South side. Jacksonville travels to Miami to play the Dolphins. I have the Dolphins pretty convincingly here. I'm interested to see how hot it's going to be down there. Let's see. It always feels like that first game, if they're playing in Miami, it's fucking hot as shit. Players are cramping. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays a factor into the game. But I got Miami.
Yeah, all right. This is going to be my first switcheroo. I had the Dolphins heading into this, but I'm switching to the Jags. Why? I don't know. I hope ETN has a good game because I picked him in fantasy over Jonathan Taylor, so I need that to work out.
There you go. Switcheroo. Jacksonville is their 3.5-point dogs. Jacksonville sucks. Even Miami.
All right. Second to last 12 o'clock window game. We have one of the worst teams in the NFL, the Carolina Panthers, traveling to
two of them.
No. Traveling to New Orleans to play the black and gold boys, the New Orleans Saints. And I'm just going to say it. Saints by $150 million. Bet us to cover, bet the spread, bet the over, bet the money line, bet the freaking Chris Olave over receiving prop, freaking Cam Jordan sack total, Kool-Aid McKinstry interception total, and you better bet the under on Bryce Young's passing yards too.
This is not betting advice, by the way. Don't do that. Any of that.
This is advice. This is locks of the week. Take them all. Win some money.
Okay, I'm going to use some stats from earlier. Chase said the Panthers were dead last in pressure rate from last season, and they traded a top 10 edge rusher. So I don't think the Saints' offensive line is going to have any problems.
Jesus.
This is a good game to work out those kinks, and I do think DC slings it in week 1. Whether that will continue, we will see.
Probably not.
The splits for Derek Carr when it comes to like pressure versus non-pressure are crazy. There shouldn't be a lot of pressure this game, so he should just be sitting in the pocket, just throwing to the open guy. The Saints are 4-point favorites, but I do think that the Panthers play it close. I think Bryce Young has a decent game, but I'm still taking the Saints.
All right, boys. Last game of the 12 o'clock window. We have an absolute barn burner matchup. Game of the week. Possibly game of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Minnesota at MetLife to play the New York Giants.
Can't wait.
I personally have the Vikings winning just on the fact that both quarterbacks suck, but one of them has Jay Jettas and one team doesn't.
Give me the Vikings 10-7.
Give me the Giants. I think Malik Neighbors shows up and shows out. Am I saying that because of fantasy? Probably, but who knows? We'll see.
All right. Kendall, first game of the 3 o'clock window. Las Vegas travels not very far over to LA to play the Chargers.
Las Vegas travels home, their original home in LA, to play a home game to open up the season against the Chargers. That stadium will be 90% silver and black. I can promise you that. It always is. So Raiders are going to come in there and stomp that ass, take care of business week 1.
Chase?
Chargers fans don't exist. Give me the Raiders.
I also have the Raiders too. Moving on. We have this will probably be the least watched matchup of the day.
Yeah.
And that's saying something. Denver travels to Seattle to play the Seahawks in what should be a pretty boring-ass game. I have the Seahawks winning. I think DK Metcalf will have a good game. I know Pat Surtain is no scrub, but I think this will probably be a pretty low-scoring game just because both teams aren't that great. But hopefully Javonte Williams runs for like 150 yards.
I'm also taking the Seahawks. This game's going to be dog shit, but fuck the Broncos. So give me the Seahawks.
Give me the Seahawks and their sweet-ass jerseys they're wearing.
All right. Moving on.
They're wearing the retros. So.
Oh, really?
Hell
yeah, give me the Seahawks by 1 million. Just because of their jerseys. Next game, 325. We got Dallas traveling to Cleveland to play the Browns. I have the Browns winning this game. I hope this is the beginning of the Deshaun Watson revenge tour. And he starts proving a lot of those haters wrong.
I also took the Browns. Nothing to do with the Browns of why I picked them. It has everything to do with CD's holdout, and I think that offense is going to look dysfunctional at least for 1 or 2 weeks. Kind of seen it with, I'll just use Josh Jacobs as an example from last year when he held out. Finally got him to agree on a 1-year contract, and it took him 2 or 3 weeks to actually kickstart and get going and get back in shape. So, I think the Cowboys offense is just going to look dysfunctional this game.
Cowboys were asking me the Browns.
All right. This would have been the worst game of the week, but this is Jaden Daniels' debut. Commanders traveled to Tampa Bay to play the Buccaneers. Unfortunately, I have Jaden losing in his rookie debut, and I have the Buccaneers taking one at home.
I took this as probably one of the more bigger upsets that I have. I took the Commanders. I think this is a solid team for Jaden to play in his first game. Not an elite team where he's just going to get his ass kicked, but a good enough team to where he can actually see like a really competitive NFL kind of team. And I think the Commanders kind of squeak out with a win.
Wesley, I love you. I know you're listening. Probably not, but if you are, I'm taking the Bucks. Fuck you, pal.
All right. I got you, Wes.
I don't.
Sunday Night Football. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
By the way, NFL went all out week one. All these primetime games for week one are going to be fantastic.
And starting with that primetime game, we have the LA Rams traveling. Matthew Stafford comes back to Detroit to play the Lions. And this could potentially be, a late NFC playoff matchup. And I do have the Lions taking this one at home.
I also have the Lions taking it, but Chase, what's the spread for this game?
3.5.
3.5
Lions, yeah.
I would be very intrigued to take the Rams spread here. I think it's probably going to be a field goal game. I think it's going to be one of the better games of the week.
Yeah, give me the Rams.
Yeah, I can definitely see it, bud.
And finally, Monday Night Football. We have Aaron Rodgers making his debut.
Again.
Hopefully for more than a couple plays. But most importantly, not at MetLife, at the state where he was born and raised, taking on the San Francisco 49ers. I personally have the San Francisco 49ers shitting on Aaron Rodgers' parade and taking that one to the house.
So as you can probably tell, I was high on the Jets. I have them having 3 award winners and winning their division, but they're going to lose week one. Aaron Rodgers, just off the top of my head that I can remember in like the last 5 to 7 years, doesn't have a great track record against the 49ers. Felt like there for a while he was always getting eliminated by them. So
the Packer killer.
Yeah. So give me the 49ers, but I do think the Jets will come back from this because their schedule will get easier.
Yeah, it pains me to say this, but I think the 49ers are going to absolutely dog walk the New York Jets.
All right, boys. Well, that does it for everything prediction-wise and everything week one. I don't know about you guys, but it feels great to be back talking ball. And I'm really interested to see how these week one matchups go and see if we're a little bit closer to our predictions. Maybe we're a little further away from our predictions. Hopefully there's no huge quarterback injuries week one like there was last year. And hopefully we just have some really good ball getting played, and we'll get to talk all about it next week. Chase, Kendall, do you have anything to add before we hop off here?
Raider Nation.
I'll say this. I'm glad that we're back. And it's been a long time coming, man. Maybe we'll go on for more than 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's been about a year.
Yeah, it's been about a year.
We made it 3 weeks last year.
Yeah.
We made it to week 3.
We sure did. Be sure to check out all the other shows on the Linc Lineup Network. Follow the show at the Linc Lineup. Follow these guys. Kendall at _33. Wyatt at LaPrad with 2 Ds. Dot Wyatt on there we go on X. And follow me at Cardiac Chase. I think we're doing 1 show a week, right? 1 show a week. We'll talk about all the things that happened the previous week, any news, and then we'll always make the picks for the upcoming week. But this has been fun. I'm glad to have you guys back. I'm glad to see what we do this season, and I'm excited for that last week when we go back and look at all of our predictions, see where in the world we messed up at. Probably everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anything else?
No. One person I know who's watching all the way here till the end, Cody Russell. Appreciate the view here, buddy.
Hey. Appreciate you and appreciate everybody else that is listening. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast from, be sure to like, follow, subscribe, whatever you guys do on that specific platform. Leave a rating and tell us that you listen to the Hodger and Coach show. That way I can give them a raise. But until then, I'll say it, as always, go Birds.
Raider Nation, baby.
Who dat?